For millennia, humans have been enthralled by the Dead Sea Jordan. Nestled between the borders of Jordan and Palestine, the Dead Sea is a large salt lake measuring 429 meters below sea level, a fact that establishes it as the lowest point on Earth. The land on either side is Holy Land, extremely rich in religious history, and central to all three Abrahamic religions. Many prophets have walked along the shores of the Dead Sea, and from the prophecies of the prophet Ezekiel to the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea may hold the key to some of human civilization's biggest questions about religion and life. Sadly, today the Dead Sea is dying, and its banks are collapsing. But why is that? Is this the fulfillment of biblical prophecies? The answer will be revealed in today's episode of Eyes 200M. First and foremost, note that the Dead Sea plays an essential role in the Bible. Cited 16 times in the Bible, the Dead Sea is mentioned primarily to describe the borders of the Promised Land. The Dead Sea is known by a few different names in the Bible, including the Salt Sea, Genesis chapter 14, verse 3, Numbers chapter 34, verse 3 and 12, Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 17, Joshua chapter 3, verse 16, and chapter 12, verse 3. The Sea of the Arabah in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 17, 4:49, and Joshua 3:16, and 2 Kings 14:25. And the Eastern Sea, Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 18, and Zechariah chapter 14, verse 8. It was called the Salt Sea for its unusually high salinity. The name, the Sea of Arabah, was given for its location in the Arabah Valley. In Hebrew, Arabah means a wasteland, or barren district, and the name Eastern Sea originated from the Dead Sea's position on the eastern boundary of the land of Israel. Only in Genesis chapter 14, verse 3, is the Dead Sea referred to as a location. In all other instances, it is used to designate a border for the land of Israel. Thus, the Dead Sea was likely considered more of a territorial boundary line than a destination for the people of the Bible. Nevertheless, several noteworthy biblical settlements were positioned on the shores of the Dead Sea, including Masada, En-Gedi, and Qumran. The Dead Sea is located 16 miles directly east of Jerusalem. Long and narrow oblong, the sea, in Bible times, measured a little over 50 miles from north to south and about 11 miles wide at its broadest point. The Dead Sea lies within the Great Trough of the Jordan Valley, also known as the Rift Valley, which forms part of the longest and deepest crack in the Earth's crust. At more than 400 meters below sea level, the Dead Sea sits at the lowest point on Earth's surface. Fed mainly by the Jordan River and a few smaller streams and rivers, the Dead Sea receives an average of 6 or 7 million tons of daily inflow with no outlet for the water except through evaporation. The extreme heat and dry conditions of the region produce an exceptionally high rate of evaporation. Even with no outflow of water, the Dead Sea's surface rises no more than 10 to 15 feet a day. The waters that feed the Dead Sea contain an unusually high salt content, approximately 26%, making it the world's most saline body of water, with almost 5 times the level of salt concentration of the ocean, on average a 3.5%. With such high salinity, no marine life can live in the Dead Sea. Even with its inability to sustain life, the Dead Sea may hold the key to some of human civilization's biggest questions about religion and life. Perhaps the most famous time that the Dead Sea is mentioned in the Bible is during the biblical story that references the Dead Sea is that of Lot's wife. In the Bible, Lot, the nephew of Abraham, chose to settle in a stretch of land near the kingdom of Sodom, just north of the Dead Sea. Sodom and neighboring kingdom Gomorrah were notorious for being places of wickedness and vice. Over the years, Lot became a respectable member of Sodom, married a Sodomite, and was appointed mayor of the city. His daughters too married men of Sodom. However, God was angry with the people of Sodom, and wishing to destroy this place of sin, sent Lot 2 angels to warn him of his plan. Lot, who inherited the traits of hospitality from his uncle Abraham, decides to welcome 2 travelers into his home. Unbeknownst to him, these travelers are actually angels sent by God to destroy Sodom and the surrounding region. When they hear that Lot was hosting guests, the residents of Sodom surrounded the house, angrily demanding that they are released from his protection. The angels then revealed their true nature to Lot, urging him and his family to flee the city before the incoming apocalypse. However, they cautioned Lot and his wife not to turn back and watch the city's destruction. According to the biblical narrative, Lot's wife decided not to heed the angel's warning, and when she turned back to survey the city's destruction, God turned her into a pillar of salt. To this day, a tall pillar standing near the Mount of Sodom is known as Lot's wife. The Dead Sea is also mentioned in the prophecy of the seer Ezekiel. The prophet Ezekiel foresaw a time when the Dead Sea's toxic waters would be transformed into a fresh river of life flowing from the throne of God. This water flows toward the eastern region and goes down into the Arabah, where it enters the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Fishermen will stand along the shore from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. There will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the Mediterranean Sea. Fruit trees of all kinds will grow on both banks of the river. Their leaves will not wither, nor will their fruit fail. Every month they will bear fruit, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them. Their fruit will serve for food, and their leaves for healing. Ezekiel chapter 47, verses 8 through 12. The prophet Zechariah also echoed this same prophecy centuries later. He predicted that living water would soon flow where today the water is salty. These prophecies are often interpreted as follows. According to the biblical narrative, the Dead Sea region was once vibrant, filled with life, and watered. It was only after God rained down fire and brimstone on the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah did the area become a wasteland, and the sea became a hypersaline salt lake. However, in the Messianic era, once mankind repents, the region will return to its original status. In recent times, the Dead Sea has been shrinking because its waters are evaporating faster than the inflow from the Jordan and other streams can replenish. In the last 40 years or so, the sea has lost about 30% of its area and has divided into 2 basins. The shallow southern basin is used primarily for the mining of Dead Sea minerals. It's a human-made problem, say environmental researchers and officials. In a region where water is scarce, Israel, Jordan, and Syria in the last several decades have diverted the freshwater sources that feed the Dead Sea for drinking water and irrigation. Plus, Israeli and Jordanian companies evaporate Dead Sea water to harvest its rich minerals for export. The part of the lake dotted with Israeli hotel resorts, a popular spot for tourists to float in Dead Sea water and lather the lake's mineral-rich mud on their skin, is actually an artificial evaporation pool in the lake's southern basin. Though the Dead Sea is not likely to disappear altogether, its recession will have detrimental consequences, the researchers said. As the waters recede, it causes an outflow of fresh water from surrounding aquifers towards the lake, depriving the parched region of its precious resource. Well, it seems to be the beginning of the fulfillment of Ezekiel's prophecy. Anyway, as Scripture promises, one day, the Dead Sea will live again. When Jesus rules the earth in the millennial kingdom, water will flow from Jerusalem's Temple Mount, and fishermen will line the banks of the Dead Sea. What a picture of the power of God to bring life from death. That's all the information we have for today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss out on future episodes. And be sure to also tell us what you think about today's content. Everyone's support motivates us to continue delivering quality content and to always improve